Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today I am talking to the Ontarians. You know, sophomore albums are often a case of diminishing returns. Not for these guys. The Ontarians' second release, More How It Is, lives up to its title in more ways than one. Not only does it take up where the Canadian roots rockers left off in their 2021 debut, The Greatest Short Story Never Told, it also ups the ante with deeper lyrics, richer production, and songs that wouldn't be out of place on a Tom Petty album. Not bad for a band formed by two singer-songwriters who don't even live in the same town. Shortly after More How It Is arrived, the band's co-founders Frank Deresti and Craig Smith zoomed in from their respective Ontario homes to talk about long-distance relationships, that straightforward band name, and plenty more. Enjoy. All right, guys. So it is nice to meet you both. And I guess the first place to start with this is at the beginning. How did you two come to join forces in this fine band?
Frank?
Okay, so Craig and I met several years ago. We were on tour around Ontario in different groups. We weren't playing together, but we were on the same bill several nights in a row, and just kind of hit it off. I think we appreciated each other's humor and music, and decided that at one point, sometime we would do something together. And it took several years before that made sense logistically. But in 2018, we got together to just to try to write some songs, and the idea was maybe we would put out some sort of a collaborative project, be it a song or an EP or something. That went really well. At the end of that week, we figured we weren't quite finished yet, and so Ontarians were born, and we're two albums in now and going strong, I think. So.
So how much of the working partnership is based on your ability to coexist and get along personally, and how much of it is based on, musical stuff?
Well, yeah, I mean, the beauty of our partnership is that we're good friends. And so I think the writing and the friendship coexists with each other and works well in our favor. We have a similar sensibility when it comes to music stylings. We work differently lyrically, and musically. The way we often come up with ideas and concepts I've found are different, but they work together very well.
Well, let's talk a bit more about that because I kind of
Yeah.
assumed you had complementary skills in play here. How does it sort of work? What does each of you bring to the table that maybe the other one appreciates?
Yeah, I find that Frank has a really precise lyrical sensibility, like a really great. He's a hell of an editor when it comes to lyrically, saying things that aren't obvious, ways to say them, and just I find for me personally, when I'm often what we do is come up with. Sometimes we'll come up with ideas separately, lyrics, whatever it is. We often have a like an iPhone note going where we're just sending each other lyrics, contributing all the
Sure.
time. But I love Frank's sensibilities when it comes to editing musically. Also, it's a really interesting way that he works. The way his mind works is really cool, and I dig it.
Okay, this can go in a lot of different directions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it could for sure.
And I mean, I'd say the same. It's funny because we do work in complementary ways, yeah, as Craig said, we come at things a little bit differently. We don't have a set formula for how we go about writing songs, and we've actually tried a lot of different things, whether it's just starting from scratch together or bringing in. We're both pretty good at seeing maybe where the other's idea can go, both musically and lyrically. And I mean, Craig I mean, he's got really, really great ears and sort of production sensibilities as well. And so he's a very easy guy to kind of throw incomplete ideas at and just kind of see where they would go. I think for me, that's kind of what collaboration is all about. You're hoping to get something out of it that you couldn't possibly do on your own. And even though we both share, we share roles. We're both lyricists. We're both composers, producers in this project. We're both playing guitars and basses and singing. But it's just you don't know what's going to happen. And I think over the time that we've been doing this together, there's kind of an increasing level of trust and therefore willingness to really kind of put yourself out there in a lot of different ways.
Well, that's the trick, isn't it? I mean, you have to kind of go into it with the approach that, well, you have to let go of your stuff, right? You can't be precious about your own stuff. You have to kind of put it into the mix and hope that a better idea, best idea wins kind of thing, right? As opposed to you clinging to, no, this lyric has to stay exactly as it is or I quit,
Right.
No, definitely. I think that's part of the beauty, and as Frank said, just the trust that
Right.
it's really the best idea wins. There's no, I feel no attachment at times, even though sometimes you come in with a song that's got it's you've thought about it lyrically and musically a bit more than you would other times. But even presenting that sort of thing, you just you just kind of let go and see if it works or not. A lot of times songs come in that are just, it's not, nothing's terrible. Nothing's ever terrible, but it's like, no, that's not really going to work now. We don't even need to really talk about it. It just kind of, the best ideas that emerge are the ones that we gravitate to when we're
Right, but I'm
working.
sure you've both come in at some time or another with a song that you went, he's gonna love this. He's just gonna think this is awesome. And then you kind of play it for the other guy and he goes, yeah, that's great. Yeah.
It happens. Just presenting ideas. I honestly don't feel that when I'm coming in with a song. Sometimes I'll feel
No?
strongly about something, but have to let go if it's not, if it's not something that we're both feeling, then it's not the right song at that moment. It doesn't mean it's not great down the road somehow, but at that moment, it's not going to work.
Right. Right. And of course you can squirrel it away for your solo album, right?
That's right. That's right.
And I think what people might find interesting too about this arrangement, partnership, whatever you want to call it, is you don't live in the same city.
No.
No, we don't.
So, I mean, how does that sort of, because it's got to be different sitting in the room opposite facing each other with guitars than it is maybe doing it over Zoom, or as you said, trading notes back and forth and talking on the phone. It's how does that distance kind of impact things?
Strangely, I think it helps. And the reason for that is when we do get together, the time is really, really valuable to both of
Mm.
us. And so there's not a lot of messing around, other than the messing around that's necessary to, get creativity happening,
Right.
in terms of just trying things out. But we get like usually I'll, drive down to Collingwood and we get there, we say hello, and we get to work. And we fill our days with creative activity or recording or whatever stage of the game that we're in. And I work with all kinds of people that I live in the same city with. That it takes us a lot longer to get things done, just because I think maybe we take the proximity for granted sometimes.
Yeah.
Whereas
Right.
Craig and I have never had that luxury, and so we tend to get things done in a relatively short amount of time.
And when you're not like actively working together in the same room, is there, so now what do we do?
No, not really at all. There's always irons in the fire, so to speak. There's always stuff
Uh-huh.
we've got going on. We both work with different projects. I have a studio, so I'm working with a lot of different artists and producing.
Right.
So I find our time is very focused when it happens, and that includes the off time when we're not together.
Mhm.
Often it's putting mixes together, talking about what are we gonna do, what's our next video idea, what's just always looking forward, really, and trying to complete tasks, getting things
Right.
done. Yeah. So it's very focused time. When we have the time to come together, um, I love that it's almost regimented, although not exactly. We know that we have to
Yeah.
get a certain amount of things done, and we really set about doing the work.
I think that's interesting because for so many singers, songwriters, artists, songwriters, whatever, they tend to romanticize the creative process as this, you hear these tales about people sitting in the studio for days or weeks, bouncing a ball against the wall, waiting for an idea. But it seems like you guys are very pragmatic about it in the sense of, getting right down to business. And we've got 3 days to hammer out these songs or whatever. And
Yeah.
that's an interesting take on it because I think a lot of people maybe think that you can't be quote unquote creative under the gun like that.
Oh yeah, you need to learn how to do that. Would be what I would say to anybody because I mean, waiting for the muse is going to get you one or two good songs, over a really long
Mm,
period of time. Chasing the muse is going to get you a whole lot of songs, and some of them are going to be good. But when you get into ratios, I think the chasing is a lot more fruitful than the waiting, and I think that's been kind
right.
of our approach. The-
Yeah, yeah. The
And
songs,
and yeah,
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, the songs don't write themselves these days, but that may be wrong with AI. That's
Yeah,
maybe
well,
we could
soon enough. Yeah.
just drop it in there, write it. We
And of
love
course,
the work. The work's the best part.
yeah, I was going to say you can't spell Ontarians without AI. So,
That's great.
get,
Wow. All
get
right.
right in on that.
Yeah, yeah, nice one.
So, producing yourselves too is kind of an interesting take on it. Is there a difference between wearing the songwriter hat and the producer hat that in terms of the relationship or how you approach the music? Is it again a kind of thing of where you go, okay, when we were writing this, it seemed to work, but now that we're actually trying to, put it down into the box or on the tape or whatever, we kind of have to really go, you know what, this isn't working this way. Let's shift gears.
100%. Yeah.
Mm.
They're much different processes.
Yeah,
Songwriting, I feel like really has to be a more freeing process. I think when you're sort of uh analytical mind that comes in more with the producing side, when a song is being born, needs to stay away. You have to keep it locked
right,
out in the backyard. When you're writing in ideas, it's looking for that sort of the purest thing, and letting senses kind of guide in our experience, and just our melodic sensibilities kind of guide the process is what we do. And then when we go to produce the song, record it, we start to really get down to the brass tacks and see if it's going to work. And then there's after the song's been recorded and we're talking about playing live, do the songs work the way they've been recorded playing live? So there's the songs kind of are living things in a way. They keep morphing in some ways.
right.
That said, we do tend to move from one phase to the next sometimes very quickly. Like we have several of the songs that we've recorded, we write and start tracking kind of in the same day sometimes.
Oh, okay.
So there is a pretty quick transition in and out, but with that, like Craig was saying, we keep that. I think we keep that writer mind a little bit into tracking in that we're not afraid to try things that aren't necessarily going to work as well. So we'll often track. We give ourselves a lot of options in terms of what we might track early on, and then we have to be again not too precious about anything. And
Right.
some things don't make the final cut, and I think that's by design. That's how we've been doing it. Probably also related to the fact that we're trying to get as much done as we can in relatively short amounts of time.
Right. I mean, I find it interesting that, you guys credit both of you equally on all the songs. That kind of reminds me of those old songwriter duos in classic pop and rock music, which
Yeah,
you really don't see as much of anymore. You see a lot of people are singer-songwriters on their own, and then you see those songs that have 18 names attached to them.
yeah,
Your approach has a very Lennon McCartney, Cuddy, Keeler,
yeah.
you know. Are there specific songwriting partnerships that you kind of, aside from the obvious ones like Lennon and McCartney, that maybe you are inspired by or look back on, or that you aspire to kind of approach the level of?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Cuddy Keeler thing is a great sort
Mm,
of home example of some artists that we really aspire to. I think the bar's set high for everything. You know, we listen to a lot of different types of music. We're inspired by a lot of different things. But when it comes down to it, we really want to write the best songs that we can. And I feel like we're just getting started in some ways. You know, it's cool to feel that, you know, I like what we've done. We have this new record that's just come out. And, you know, always kind of moving ahead or thinking ahead. At least I feel that when it comes to respecting songwriting partnerships and teams, they're always there. All the greats, Lennon, McCartney. Yeah, we could go on. But yeah, just writing a great song is the key, regardless of who's written it. Yeah. Or regardless of the you know, where the inspiration is, whoever wrote the song previously. We're just trying to write something that's a future classic. No big deal, but
just something that will influence generations and perhaps change the course of recorded history.
just trying to change the world, you know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, here, you know, let's talk about the new album, More How It Is then. It seems like a good place to get a little further into that. For a lot of bands, second albums are pale imitations of the first one. You know, it's maybe songs you had left over that didn't fit the first time around, or you know, things like that. To me, this album really feels like an evolution, kind of a step up from the first one. There's no slump here. And that doesn't seem like it was an accident. It really seems like you guys were deliberately trying to step up your game. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. There's a fear, I think, of the you know, the substandard sophomore record
Yeah.
that we were conscious of and we wanted to really avoid. We we worked really hard on this second album, and there were a lot of, you know, some of these songs went through a lot of incarnations before we finally settled on what we thought was the best representation of the song. A lot of songs were written or partially written and did not make the cut. So it wasn't you know, it wasn't sort of a pieced together like, oh, we have this material kind of kicking
Right.
around. It was every song was very intentional, and we really we were on a mission to make the very best record that we could at the time, and that's what we came up with. So
When you talk about intentionality, intentionality in what direction? That you were looking for, I don't know, sonic cohesion or thematic lyrical cohesion or a narrative, or you know what I mean? How did it all sort of start to come together where where you're deciding, oh, this one stays, this one goes?
I think that's just a feeling. I think we know, like, when we're working on a song together, like, we'll often just stop, you know, like, there's not really a lot said, and it's like, let's work on this other song right now. Like, this one's not happening. And then sometimes we
Right.
come back to those songs and finish them, but again, it's all, it all relates back to this, you know, preciousness of time. And so we're, you know, when we're in it and it's going well, we're all in it and we're kind of sticking to it until either it's finished or we've hit a logical point where it makes sense to stop. And when it's not working, we're not really wasting a lot of time with that. So I think that sort of intention is more what it's all about, as opposed to
Mm.
thematically. We didn't set out to write any specific songs about a certain thing. Usually the, you know, the meaning kind of presented itself. Now I think there is a common thread throughout the album. These songs were, a lot of them were started during, you know, a period of a lot of uncertainty in the world,
Right.
and you know, so that there's that sort of dystopian element that you could kind of trace through a lot of the songs.
Yes.
With that, there's always, you know, there's a little bit of lightheartedness and humor, and that's basically just who we are. I think that's why we enjoy working together to begin with, is because we both carry both of those ends of the spectrum of kind of mood and approach to these subjects.
You mentioned revision, and that's also something I think is interesting because, you know, a lot of artists kind of cling to the first thought, best thought, you know, go with that. If you, so once you start monkeying with something, you're trying to, you know, fit the hand into the glove and it's not going to work. Is that something that you've had to learn in terms of maybe the first
Yeah.
idea isn't always the one you should stick with?
I think that is something you learn as you kind of mature as a creative person, is that sometimes letting go is not easy to do when it's what's if you have an idea or a concept that you really love, but again, trying to get the best thing, the best
Right.
idea wins the best song. So letting go is I think it's something that you just have to do. Not everything, not every idea is going to win at the end of the day. Not everything's the right thing.
But I get the sense you were doing more revision this time out, that it was something you kind of embraced a little more. Is that true?
Yeah, I think you could be right. I think the first record well, yeah, I think we might have done that record a little bit sooner. As
Mm.
far as you could be right, less revisions. Maybe on the first one. Our second one, we took a little bit more time to do. I think we started it during, that pandemic period. So there wasn't a huge like rushed. We didn't feel
Right.
a real pressure to finish things. So I think we did take our time a little bit more with the songs here.
I think it's reflected. I think it's also reflected in the production. Things feel this one feels to me a little richer, a little fuller sonically. Were you
Mm.
doing things different this time around, or was it just that element of having more time to kind of tweak things and let things sit and come back to them and that kind of thing?
I don't think we were doing anything consciously different, just
Mhm.
growing as
Right.
songwriters, as producers and mixing engineers, all those things. Maybe trying some different things. I think that often the music that, for me personally, things I'll be listening to at that particular time can often influence some production slash mixing sensibilities. So it's all
And
just
who were you listening to?
yeah. That's a great question. My taste. I'm constantly exploring new things. I mean, I'd have to look at my phone. I really don't even know. I can't even tell you offhand right now. A
Good
lot.
for you. Never own up to it. That's the trick.
Right. I don't even think I could right now. I think I need a couple more coffees in me before these
Uh-huh.
uh, these things come to my mind. But Frank,
I'm the same. I mean, yeah, I can't pinpoint any specific, influences on any given day, really. There's so much floating around there, and Craig and I are similar in that we kind of actively devour as much music as we can, and it all works its way in there. I think,
Right.
I mean, you can make obvious kind of comparisons as people do to bands that we might be natural descendants of or something, but there's
mhm.
just so much floating around in there that just kind of comes out in what we.
Right. I mean, and that's one I think one of the benefits of the revisioning revisionary, whatever that word would be, aspect of it is that the more you kind of come back to something and change a little here and change a little, I mean, you might listen to a Tom Petty song one day and be inspired by a chord change or a rhythm or whatever and start a song in that way, but then 2 months later, some other idea pops in and it I don't know, muddies the water, takes it in a different direction. So it's not so obvious that, oh, you rewrote Free Falling or something, you know?
Yeah.
That can definitely happen. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, as the song is in progress, different influences come in and can shift it a little bit more, and that's kind of an interesting part of the whole process. Also, it's not we're not is we do have times where we'll write and record a song in a day, but that doesn't necessarily make it great. Some songs will take weeks or months to really kind of
Sure.
sit and um, you know before we come back to it, um and yeah, they do kind of take a new direction at times over that time period. So that's an interesting thing when it comes to
Right.
writing and producing music. Yeah.
Tell me about the album title, More How It Is. It's an interesting turn of phrase because I think it if you just look at it and without thinking about it, it seems like fine, whatever. But then if you really kind of start to parse it, it can have a bunch of different meanings.
Yeah.
Anybody, don't all talk at once, guys.
So more how it is found its way into our shared note that
Uh-huh.
we're bouncing lyrics and stuff. And I'm pretty sure it came from a conversation. I was down in Collingwood at Craig's place. We were working on the record, and Jay Styles, our keyboard player, had called. He's like, how's it all going there? And we were just kind of describing the day, and we're just, more how it is. And just basically what we do, and whenever a phrase like that shows up, we just jot it down. Maybe it lands somewhere. And we were looking at album titles, and there it was, and we kind of we tried out a couple of graphics with it, and it seemed to work out okay. There was no big aha kind of moment with the title, but it's the one
Okay.
that stuck. And it is, I mean, it kind of makes sense for a second record, more how it is. And yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. I guess it's better than the greatest short story never told again. Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the second greatest short story. Yeah.
Hey, there you go. There you
There you
go. So I know you've got a show coming up, but what's the plan here? I mean, given that again, you don't live in the same city, you're not the kind of band that can get together every Tuesday and Thursday to rehearse and play a gig every week or every other week. So how do you kind of make this, into something more than just the occasional studio project?
Oh, well, that's a great question. Yeah, that requires a lot of planning. So we're planning
Yeah.
ahead right now into next spring and summer and festival season. We've got a lot on the go as far as new songs and video content for social media and all this stuff is sort of it's just how it is being in a band now. You always need content, so that's something we're always conscious of, because we are active even though we're not necessarily together. So again, our we need a lot of planning and focus when it comes to the Ontarians, and that's how we work. So that's the machine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, when you guys do get together to play, is it a thing where you need a lot of rehearsal time, or does it just kind of, you can get together in the afternoon and play in the evening?
That's kind of how it is. And I mean, depending on, our lineup it shifts a little bit as well, but generally there's two guys in the live
Right.
band that are up here in the stew, and that's our rhythm section, Jay Case on bass and Chris Johns on drums. And so I'll often get together with those guys maybe once or twice before we head down, just to kind of get
Mm.
the back end kind of feeling good. And Craig was doing the same thing last time around. We had John Hall, who lives in Collingwood, playing keyboards with us, so they get together. And then so by the time we all converge, we've all done some collective homework in whatever way we can. And then at that point, I think, yeah, it's like you describe it. One good rehearsal and we're pretty ready to go. Now that said, I mean, last week we played, a handful of shows in a row, and so of course things feel much better as the shows go on. Like the band really was really gelling, and just a much more natural kind of easy kind of flow to everything once you get a few shows under your belt, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird time to be in a band, though, right? Because,
Yeah.
even touring, which used to be kind of, okay, well, we can make money on the road,
Yeah.
that kind of ceased to be a thing. So there's really, it's a tough road to hoe, even tougher than it's always been.
I would think that's true. Yeah. You gotta love it. You gotta love it hard because
Yes.
you know, when you think about the financial aspects of being in a band, you can really be deflated. I think I saw a stat recently. I heard maybe on Rick Beato, I'm not sure what, but the last time a band was charting musically in the top 100 was in like 2008. It's a different world now. So we're kind of a roving gang that we're going to bring joy into your community when we land. And we just I think that's the biggest motivation for us, is that we're right now we're out playing, creations that we made together and bringing people joy. And you can't really hope for a hell of a lot more than that.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, you gotta love it.
You gotta
The
love
album's
it.
been out for a few weeks now. Are you still in love with that, or is there kind of a did it have to be pried from your hands? Was it always, oh, what, what's one more pass, one more mix through?
Yeah,
I think, sorry, Frank, go ahead.
we have kind of a rule that, at some point you just have to abandon,
Well,
and
that's what they say about art, right? Art's
that's
never
right.
finished, it's abandoned. Yeah.
Abandoned. And so sometimes we'll be going back and forth on things, and we both get a sense that we both kind of really like it in that moment, but we also know that there's a risk that we'll want to tear it apart next week. And so
Yeah.
sometimes it's just a matter of a text. One of us will write to the other, okay, abandon, and then it goes into the abandoned pile. And I'm happy with where we abandoned this one, I think, and
Yeah.
I think I will be for a while, actually. So
Is
Yeah.
it a thing where no matter what what you've made, if you go back and listen to any album you've recorded, that there's a song or a point at some point somewhere where you go, ah, where you just cringe and wish, if I could fix that one thing, you know?
I mean, I think there's always like maybe the perfectionist side of me is always.
Uh-huh.
I think it drives me crazy. I don't listen to a lot of things that I create, to be perfectly honest, after they're
Sure.
out there in the world.
same.
Yeah, just partially because of that. I just don't want to start picking apart a time and a place.
Right.
Everything everything has to end. Even the favorite song you're recording at that moment needs to finish. And yeah, as Frank said, abandon. And you just
Yeah.
know
Well,
when the
I mean,
right
yeah.
time you abandon. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to musicians and said, I love your album, I love this album, I love that album, and they go, there are like nine obvious clams on that album, and I can't
Yeah.
listen to it because of that,
Right.
And so it's like,
Sure.
what do you?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think
Is
there's
it?
any I don't think there's anything on this record that I'm not proud of doing. I'm always, I do hear things where I'm like, oh, I could have been a little subtler on that mix or that, but
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's a constantly evolving thing, as when the record was finished months ago or whatever it was. I
Right.
think, things are evolving, tastes evolve, even, skills, whatever it is, your sensibilities 6 months after a record's done change. So the next record's going to sound much different than this one.
Yeah, and I find it interesting too with that aspect of the music business because I don't think a lot of people really understand lead times and things like that, where, yeah, I mean, you guys are obviously able to work closer to the vest and to the bone than a lot of people, but there are lots of artists who make an album and it doesn't come out for, a year or longer. And then you have to sort of still be in love with these songs, even though now you're in love with, whatever you wrote last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, is it too early for you guys to start talking and looking ahead to the next album, or is that sort of something you're already kind of into?
No,
We're into
Frank. Yeah,
Yeah, we're kind of in the preliminary stages of the next record. Yeah, there's not like kind of clear boxes in terms of our whole process. I mean,
Right.
this album hadn't even been pressed yet, and we were already talking about the next one, and so
Right.
it's an ongoing kind of process always with us. So,
yeah, and that's how much I think we enjoy working with each other. We actually talk about the next thing and what are we going to do, and I know a lot of bands have admin people that do that and managers that prod, but we're kind of self-motivated because we like each other.
Well,
We
you
like playing
have
in
to
the
be,
band
don't you?
together. We love making music together.
Yeah. And if
Yeah.
you weren't self-motivated, who's gonna no, that's it. It's you guys or nobody, right?
that's right. Yeah.
That's right. I laid off my staff during COVID, so
Yeah, well, precisely, precisely. I'll let you go after I just have to ask you about the band name because I gotta be honest with you. You guys are smart, creative, you write great lyrics, And this band name is so fucking pedestrian.
Frank, I'll let you comment on that.
Uh, thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So I don't know. I mean, band names are hard, you know. There's a lot of them that
Sure.
are, you know, there's a lot of them out there. And Craig and I both have had, I don't know, countless band names over the years. Ontarians is it just sort of came early on.
Uh-huh.
It's something that we all had in common. So we're all from
Well,
Ontario.
I guess we're just glad you're not named Guys with Noses then, right?
True, true. Ontario, we've embraced it. It's a name that it does feel right to us. We're not Ontario kind of conjures up images of you know, natural things like water and rugged landscapes. And
Okay.
we are both, you know, fluid and rugged. So
I can tell by looking at you. Rugged, it screams
right.
rugged. And you know that
Rugged.
everybody else in Canada hates Ontarians though, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, well, we're
I
trying to
mean,
change that. We're on a mission, one song at a time. We're trying to
Uh-huh.
working on the
All right.
grass.
And you know the thing that's interesting is you're one of the few bands that's named after a place who are actually from that place.
yeah,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
You know, Bay City Rollers, not from Bay City, Manitoba, not
No,
from Manitoba. You know, you guys
no.
went with it. I like it.
I was gonna say Boston, but Frank told me that
Yeah,
name's taken. I mean,
I think yeah, well, yeah, Boston. I think Toronto is the only you know.
I think that was taken too, you know,
Yeah,
but
so I think that's taken. And if you're gonna really go for the band name everybody in Canada hates, I think that would be the one to go for.
I think you
Go for
might be right.
Toronto.
Torontonians.
Yeah, we don't live in Toronto,
No, I know.
so I
That's a
think
point in
that's
your
where
favor.
the name takes on a different meaning.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
on these great bodies of water. Frank's on Lake Superior and me Georgian Bay. So it's you know, it feels more true to our name where we are and who we are.
Fair enough. All right, listen. Thanks for your time today. Thanks for putting up with my stupid questions, and thanks for the music. This, like I said, the second album to me, it bodes well for the third one. It's a step up, and I think you guys are still getting better, and that's always the way it should be. That's always what you want to hear.
Thanks so much. We really appreciate it.
All right. Well, listen. Have a good day, and hopefully you see you guys come through Western Canada sometime next summer, maybe.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Well,
Yeah. We'll keep you posted. Thanks so much. Thanks for your time and your support too. Much
All right.
appreciated. Yeah.
All right. Well, take care, guys. See you somewhere down
thank
the
you.
road.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Okay.
See
Bye, guys.